Buddha Dhamma, Chapter 5, The Law of Karma, page 455, Long-Term Effects of Kamma. The following material on how Kamma bears fruit in the long term, for instance, over many lifetimes, is one part of the descriptions on how the fruits of Kamma affect people's lives. To a large extent, it was covered in the previous section. The reason for distinguishing this material here is because many people show a special interest in this specific matter. Although this matter won't be discussed here at length, it seems useful to offer some observations for the sake of study and contemplation. When either wholesome or unwholesome intention arises in the mind, mental activity begins. The mind operates and it is active. We can adopt terms from the material world and refer to this activity as the force of intention, cetana in Pali. Most people do not understand that we are even interested in how this force of intention, cetana, operates and what other conditions are involved. They are only interested in the end results of the process. The fruits of intention, cetana, in Pali language, manifests in the material world and in human society are clearly visible. There are many examples on how the force of intention manifests in the material world, especially in terms of various intentions and devices, from shoes to spaceships, axes to nuclear bombs, abaxi to computers. Other examples include social system, institutions, including government systems, economic system, administrative system, organizations of work, etc. These systems have a great deal of complexity. Indeed, the entire process of intention, along with the mechanics of the mind through which intention expresses itself or operates, is highly refined and complex. It is no less complex than the most subtle and refined inventions or systems created by it. Human beings possess ample knowledge about the history of development of various intentions and social systems created by the mind, originating with intention. Yet in respect to the nature of the mind and the way in which the mind is conditioned by intention, we possess a distinct lack of understanding. One can say that the working of the mind remain a great mystery for human beings, even though they affect us directly and exert the greatest influence on our lives. Due to this ignorance, vijja in Pali, when people encounter phenomenon or situations that are the end results of volitional activities, in other words, when they face anything that arises due to their intention in their activities, they often have a disjointed understanding of the cause and effect. They do not recognize that associated factors involved, or at least not comprehensively, and end up attributing or blaming various other things. Ignorant people do not acknowledge the law of Kamma. They do not believe in the law of cause and effect or in the natural causal process. The refusal is acknowledged. The law of Kamma, or the misplaced blaming of other factors, is then another level of volitional action, Kamma, which has its own adverse effects, namely on one squanders the opportunity to improve oneself and to adapt to these methods, leading to the desired results. More gravely, one may falsely accuse others of involvement or perform other actions having more severe consequences. In any case, Gautama Buddha acknowledged that the intricacies of how volitional actions bear fruit on the extremely complex matter beyond the power of thinking. People are unable to fathom the truth of this matter by way of thought. In the Tipitaka, the Pali Canon, this matter is classified as achinteya, translated as imponderable, a matter which shouldn't be thought about. There are four such imponderable: the scope of the Buddha, Buddha Visaya; the scope of jhana; the fruits of Kamma, Kamma Vipaka; and the speculation about the origin or the creation of the world, Loka Sinta. If one does not heed this warning and tries to unravel this complexity by thinking, there's a chance of going crazy. This does not mean that Gautama Buddha forbids us to think about the fruits of Kamma. It simply explains that the complexity is inconceivable. It cannot be fully understood by way of reasoning. This matter can be understood, however, by way of realization. Furthermore, the madness ensuing from excessive pondering over the matter is not a punishment laid down by Gautama Buddha. It is simply a natural result of the unresolved and confused fretting. Although this subject is classified as imponderable, this does not mean that we should not take an interest in it. We can engage with this subject according to our limited understanding and gain confidence from such understanding. We are able to contemplate those things that lie within the field of our discernment. Those things existing in the present moment, beginning with minor matters and extending to the more significant, far-reaching ones. We can observe the effects of our thoughts and intentions. How do wholesome thoughts lead to positive results in our lives, and vice versa? How do unwholesome thoughts generate negative results and cause damage? How do these effects have wider consequences for other people, the society, and the world? How do they rebound on our own lives? One begins to understand the complexity and the subtlety of this multifaceted causal process going beyond one's initial assumptions. And one then gains confidence in the causality inherent in nature. An understanding of the minor short-term effect leads to the understanding of how things unfold in the long term. Indeed, the long-term effects descends from the constant of the short-term effects. The long-term effects could not exist where it is not for the short-term effects. Here, an understanding arises in line with this truth. A confidence in the natural causal process involving intention is precisely a confidence and trust in the law of Kamma. When one possesses trust in the law of Kamma, whenever one desires particular results, one expects these to occur by way of intentional actions. One then proceeds to act in conformity with causes and conditions. With a thorough understanding to the factors involved, if one wishes for positive effects, both in respect of the law of karma and the respect for the worldly things, loka dhamma, one makes a complete analysis of various factors involved and then carefully generates the necessary conditions for these things to arise. This analysis is not restricted to the person's internal conceptual activity. It applies also to the external creative activity. People skilled at inventing or creating things do not only focus on the context of their own conceptualization and intentions. They also take into account relevant factors from other laws. For example, an architect uses artistic creative refinement to design a beautiful wooden house. When he or she uses this design to build a real house, he or she needs to consider that what kinds of hardwoods and softwoods are required for different parts of the house. No matter how beautiful the design, if he or she uses conifer wood where hardwood is required, the house may collapse and he or she's project may fail. Another architect may have a beautiful design but use unattractive building materials and thus fail in his or her pursuit. Similarly, a fashion designer gets caught up in his own exquisite mental designs without taking into consideration the climate of the country in question, say by producing beautiful clothes suitable for a cold climate, but sell them in a hot climate, he or she too will fail in this endeavor. Similarly, those people who are engineers or artisans designing a wholesome way of life should be prudent in relating the causes and conditions. In the context of benefiting from the law of Kamma and ensuring that one progresses in wholesome direction, it is necessary to establish a love of goodness, kusala-chanda, or love of truth, dhamma-chanda. In spiritual training, people should be encouraged to cultivate such an aspiration of love for truth and goodness. Say by wishing for one's life to be pure and virtuous, desiring a virtuous society, wishing for all those things one engages with to exist in a state of excellence and in integrity, or for them to reach in an optimal state, and wishing for the truth to pervade in all directions. As long as people fail to have love for truth and goodness, they are simply infatuated by delightful things in the world. They would then be a fool about the law of Kamma, or to deceive the law of nature. In fact, they're unable to deceive the law of nature. Rather, they end up deceiving themselves. As a consequence, they create an endless amount of harm to themselves, to the society, and to the human race.